Many of the cattle reared in the west of Ireland first saw the light of day in the intensive dairying areas of Munster. Calves spent only a few days and sometimes only a few hours in the south before they were whisked away to the west by some enterprising calf dealer. The rearing of young cattle is the major farming activity in Connacht, and when the trade for these young cattle collapses, as it has now, the drop in farmers' incomes can be staggering. Any sale of young cattle tells its own story. The calf heifer scheme of 1963 encouraged the breeding of extra cattle, but it was the beef incentive scheme of the late 60s, so readily availed of in the West, that is the main reason for the great flush of young cattle so plentiful on Irish farms today. During the summer we visited Martin Moore, who farms near Ballygar in County Galway. Martin, or Sonny as he is known by his friends and neighbours, keeps 25 cows and rears around 50 calves per year. As well as that, on his 145-acre farm, he grows 20 acres of barley and keeps 115 ewes. No milk is sold, as each of Sonny's cows rears not just her own calf, but a second calf as well. This double suckling can be troublesome enough, as cows and calves are brought together twice a day. Normally the cows are tied in the byre, and the calves are then allowed in to suckle their mother or foster mother. This herd, like most suckling herds in Ireland, has grown up without a lot of thought being given to the choice of breeds. Normally a Hereford bull is used on Hereford or Shorthorn cows. Some blacks and the occasional Frisian heifer find their way into suckling herds too. Breeding store cattle has always been a gamble, but this is something the small farmers of the West seem prepared to live with. One often asks, why that type of farming? Why not more milk? I asked Sonny Moore the same questions.
I thought myself, I just thought that might be the best type of farmer to win on here. But you see, you're in off the road and you're not suitable for milk here. So if you're on the side of the road, maybe milk may be the best job, and then the land is scattered, 2 or 3 different places. So you couldn't keep a whole heap of cows one place and another. You'd have to have them all round about if you're in milk.
And how many of last year's calves have you now?
I have 65 of them left, unfortunately.
And are you going to have to sell them before the winter comes?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, have to sell them.
You'll have to take...
Have to take whatever money they're going. Cannot feed them.
Is there no way that you could make extra silage now?
No way in the world. No way in the world. Couldn't possibly do it.
Now, is this the same type of system that you had last year? Did you sell?
Yeah, it is. Very same.
You sold last October?
I did, yeah. Sold last October.
And what did you get last October for?
130.
Per head?
Yeah.
And what does it appear that you're going to get next October?
I don't know. Will I be able to sell them at all? We'll score.
Do you think your income is going to fall much in 1974 compared to last year?
Oh, but the looks of things it's going to go down half.
What you're selling is...
Well, like with the cost of manure and all that's gone up against you. See. Your income may not go down half, but your costs are going to go up double.
And the price of your cattle will be down?
And the price of your cattle will be down, with the looks of things at the moment.
What do you think of all the forecasts were made, we'll say 2 and 3 years ago, that there was a shortage of beef for the foreseeable future?
Well, I think someone done their homework really wrong.
Do you think that they should be in a position to make forecasts that will stick?
Well, they made a forecast, you see, that we're going to have a scarcity of beef for at least 3 years. Then we were told not to let a heifer out of the country here. They would give another bull, not a calf out. Now where are we today?
Yeah, do you think there's too many of these heifers got the bone.
Oh, definitely. There must something go wrong somewhere, I don't know, but to look at the position today, just after about 15 months or 16, said that there's just a glush of cattle today all over the place.
Do you worry about things you read in the papers, such as the green pound and MCAs and that type of stuff?
No, not no more. Not no more.
You make up your own mind?
Yeah, that's what I have to do today if I'm going to exist. But none of these boys will be any good to me if I go down. I just have to...
At the moment, do you feel you're going down with the way...
Well, I'm not going down. I'm making an existence. Not a living, though, by any means. You know, you're hoping for next year to be better, but I wonder if that year ever come. I'm just hoping for that to come, eventually.
Well, you have a reasonable sized farm. How about the men that are small farms and are suckling 6 or 7 cows?
Oh, yeah, but, you see, I doubt it greatly, you know, those are not making a living on land. I'm making a living on land wholly and solely. You know, I have nothing at all to come in, only the land. So when you have to make a living wholly and solely on land today, I think you're against the stone wall.
Sonny grows 20 acres of barley. Surely this reduces his feed costs quite a lot.
If you grow a crop and stuff, you won't have it for nothing. You know, there's costs on a crop growing. You may have it at first cost, but you never will have it, think you'll have it for nothing. Just cheaper than you could buy it now, not a hell of a lot. It costs a lot to grow a crop.
How does local advisor Liam McNamara see Sonny Moore developing his farm under the Farm Modernisation Scheme?
He's an applicant under the Farm Modernisation Scheme, and quite obviously we would like to see him developing as an intensive dairy farm. But his situation, of course, doesn't allow for this. He's off the road, off the beaten track. He's 8 miles from the creamery, so he can't deliver his own milk, and dairying is out. So if dairying is out, then we have to look for some alternative. He has been traditionally a store cattle man and a sheep man, mid-season lamb. I think if he's going to qualify as a development farmer, and we'd hope that he will, he'll have to change somewhat to double suckling or something like that, bringing the cattle to the very end.
Right to beef.
Right to beef, and this is something that's completely new in this area, and this is the only solution that is for him. The other thing that might go with that is that we'll have to maybe show a little bit more imagination in our choice of breeds.
You seem to be not at all sure that he's going to be a development farmer, even though he has over 100 acres of land.
Again, we haven't enough of experience yet. I haven't myself anyhow, and I don't think many of us have enough of experience yet to be able to talk authoritatively on the development scheme. But there are so many things to be taken into consideration when one talks about investment interests, which have to be paid for and allowed for in the mathematical exercise involved. It's going to be difficult enough to be a development farmer, but I think he probably will.
But the smaller farmer that we have in this area will probably have to be in milk if they have any chance at all of being development farmers. Would that be correct?
Yes, indeed. Obviously, this is he must intensify in milk, and on that point, I just like to say that when the beef incentive bonus scheme was introduced, it was sad to see the small man who should be in milk, according to our way of thinking, if you like. He was the very first to go into the beef incentive bonus scheme with 4, 5, 6 cows, and even though he got nothing out of the first 2 cows, this problem is there, and there's some big problem there. Why is it that he doesn't want to intensify into milk, and why doesn't he want to stay in a 7-day-week job, which he's going to be at anyhow? You know, it's the facts of the situation are such. But I think Moore will make it all right if he can intensify and if he can get into these fast-growing breeds.
Fast-growing breeds will be some help if the smaller farmer decides to take his cattle through to beef. After all, it's only finished cattle that qualify for a type of guaranteed minimum price under the intervention system. Sonny Moore, like most farmers who took bad prices for young cattle, realises this.
See, they're calling a store today 9 to 1000 weight. That's what they're calling a store now. Well, a few years ago when a store 500 or 600 was a grand base to sell. Now it's a 9 and 1000 lads. So we just cannot keep those cattle to that weight at all, unless we keep less and do them better.
It's not going to be easy to do any animals well this winter, but they were seldom done well on most western farms during any winter, as feed was always scarce and often of poor quality. This year will be worse than normal. Extra weanlings, less and poorer quality feed. But is there no way farmers can hold on? Is it advisable to buy grain to supplement the hay and silage? It should be, but some farmers either don't agree or else need the cash. That's why young cattle are going to the marts and not coming home.
Well, you see, you're left in the position that you have to knock them down, because once you get the cattle opened, the thing about it is all these farmers want to sell them.
They don't want them home at any cost.
They don't want them home at any cost. Once they get them sold, once they get you to open them, and you're going along there and you turn around to them, and irrespective of the price you're getting. And the fact that they bought these calves at 30, 35, 40 pound in the spring and fed them on, and now they find themselves in the position where they have no feeding for them and they just have to sell them. And they're losing in most cases a tenner a head and the feeding for the summer. And it's just tragic to see this happening. You know?
Are they very annoyed in the farmers, or are they just accepting it?
Not annoyed in the fact like of coming in and devouring you, but very depressed. And you can see this depression on them, you know, in comparison with last year. Last year, you see, you had everybody all smiles and everything, and now you're left in the position where they're coming into, they're losing this money.
Oh, beyond a shadow of doubt, you know, it's a bad job, but sure, the trouble is, it's in such a mess today, you wouldn't know that where to start at. No, it's really depressing.
What do they say if they hear some commentators saying that cattle prices are going to rise over the next 3 or 4 months?
It doesn't make any difference to them because they have no way of keeping them on. How can they keep them on if you have no feeding for them?
Is it simply that they're short of feed, or is it just that they have been driven into a panic by commentators saying cattle are going to die this winter?
Well, possibly it's a combination of both. Certainly, one must assume that the fodder is scarce. If one looks at the summer that we had, the terrible bad weather conditions, harvesting conditions. And secondly, you have a problem where you have an excess number of young cattle in the country. I think farmers are worried in case that a lot of those cattle would die over the winter period if they didn't get rid of them now.
But people are saying now that the cattle trade is going to pick up maybe inside a few months. Do farmers really believe this?
No. I think, personally speaking, I think the majority of people feel that there will be no great improvement in the store cattle trade until this time next year at the earliest.
What is the quality of cattle like at the moment?
The quality of cattle certainly has deteriorated as far as we are concerned here. We were renowned for the quality of our store cattle. Certainly we've lost a lot of that reputation at the moment. I think that farmers bred indiscriminately, and certainly I think that they must accept a small proportion of the blame for the present situation.
The hay situation isn't as bad, I think, in many cases as it would appear to be. Any kind of thrifty farmers have, well, most of their hay saved. The situation with silage is that an awful lot of land couldn't be made into silage until too late, but still it's there and it's going to be quite useful later on anyhow.
So it doesn't appear to be much worse than previous years?
Except in individual cases, not much worse. If we got, even at this late stage, if we got a month of reasonably dry weather, we'd have some hope.
On the feed situation, do you think that many extra cattle will die this winter? Some probably always died.
I think that point is very important, Peter, that some cattle always died and cattle will still die. And I have no doubt at all that there will be extra deaths this year because of the situation that every small farmer has 2, 3 or 4, 5 in some cases, cattle more than he budgeted for. It would be the normal thing for those to be gone. And because of this, there's bound to be a risk of more deaths. But I don't think it's going to be as bad as has been said in other places.
I think if you run anything too thick, it's a bad job. I mean, we must cut down, and that's all it's told. That's what I honestly think, and cut down on the bills.
You're not afraid that things have changed in a couple of years? And
oh, they probably will, but sure, it's a scarce that'll make everything dear eventually, you know? Sir, we were told to go into it and everything, stay what we were told and come up, but sure, that's the portion you get grass, we don't know. The day might come, well, when there will be deer, I'd say. And they say it might happen before 2 years. We'll take it a while, deer is a foul.
Do you think they'll take a scarcity first and then deer?
Will, yeah. Take a scarcity.
Scarcity here in this country?
No, not here. I'd say to make no difference at all here what cattle are being, to be out abroad, foreign countries. That's what make it eventually.
Wouldn't that be a good reason for increasing the number here now?
Well, sure, you can't increase them sure, if you have no feeding for them. You only can produce so much, no matter how much manure you put out or anything else. You cannot just turn about and overstock. That's why we went into it wrong. We went into it blind, you see. And then we were told about the feeding. Well, before ever we went into it was the time to produce the feeding, that you increased your numbers gradually, not in a big flush as they were done, you know.
This increase in cattle numbers has indirectly caused a sharp reduction in the few acres of oats, so common on all farms some years ago. Thus another source of winter feed in the form of straw and oats is not there in most cases. Well, in this winter, when feed is scarce, a question many farmers will be asking is what is the minimum amount of feed that they can feed to their animals this winter in order just to keep them as they are? In other words, just to maintain them. Well, we've come along to Grange to meet Vincent Flynn and ask him his opinion on this problem. Vincent, could I ask you first, what is the amount of hay required to feed weanlings such as those three here behind us?
Those three weanlings here behind us are about 3.5 to 4 hundredweight at the moment. If we allow for a 5-month winter period, those animals will require about 2 bales of bad hay a week each. That would be about 11 pounds of hay per animal per day.
And would that have them looking in the spring exactly as they look now?
It should do. They would maintain weight on it. It's bad quality hay. Even when fed to full appetite, they will not put on weight on it, but they will maintain their present weight and present condition.
Now, most farmers, of course, haven't enough hay and they'll be feeding some barley.
Quite. That's the usual case in practice. An individual possibly has 2/3 of his real requirements. If he can allow about 1.25 bales of this sort of badly weathered hay per animal for a 5-month winter period, and makes up the difference by feeding about 1.75 to 2 pounds of barley a day over the winter period, then he will achieve the same end objective.
So
he will maintain weight on, say, 1.25 bales of hay per weanling per week, plus about 1.75 to 2 pounds of barley per animal per day.
How much barley is this? Pound and 3/4?
It would be about 1.75 pounds, 2 double handfuls of barley.
So it's a small amount of barley, really?
It's a small amount of barley, yes.
Now let's look at the position where a farmer has good hay. There isn't very much of that.
A situation where a man has, we say, not so good hay, but more average quality hay. It's been cut mid-June to end of June, and not badly weathered in the field at time of saving.
Again, 2 bales per week, is it, or would you get by with less?
They would eat about 2 bales a week.
Each?
They'll eat slightly more than they would of the bad quality hay, but allow, say, 2 bales a week. Being better quality, the animals will put on weight on this material. They'll put on about half a pound a day, or 3/4 hundredweight over a 5-month winter period.
And I can assume they wouldn't need any barley.
They won't be fed any barley on this material. After all, animals, they're doing about half a pound a day, will be okay over the winter period.
Well, have we much of that type hay, do you think?
Well, if we call it average hay, we should have quite a lot of it around. I think in the present year, there isn't quite as much of this sort around as there should be, due to the bad weather during the summer period. Again, if we take the case of an individual who is short in total feed supplies, if he's got this better quality material and feeds it in a restricted amount, say 1.25 bales a day, animals will maintain weight on that alone.
It's 1.25 bales per animal per week?
1.25 bales per animal per week, per 400 weight weanling per week. They'll maintain weight on that without any barley supplement.
Well, here we have some bigger animals, Vincent. How would you go about maintaining them for the winter?
Well, for those 7.5, 800 weight stores, again, if we take 2 examples, a man who's got bad hay and a man who's got good hay. First, the man with bad hay.
Stuff.
3 bales a week will maintain one of those 7.5, 800 weight stores over the winter period without any supplementation. They won't gain weight on it. They'll maintain weight and they'll maintain condition.
That's 3 bales per head per week?
Correct.
And they'll look just as well going out in the springtime?
They should do.
Now, Vincent, suppose a farmer hasn't even enough of bad hay. What does he do?
Well, again, if we take the case where he has about 2/3 of his requirements, if he cuts back from 3 bales per animal per week to 1.75 bales per animal per week, on this material, they will maintain weight if he feeds them about 2.5 pounds of barley a day.
Again, about 3 good handfuls, we'd say.
About 3 good handfuls of barley, correct, double handfuls.
And of course, Vincent, a lot of farmers are prepared to pay 35 to 40 pence for straw for feeding to cattle. Just how good is it?
Well, reasonably good quality straw probably isn't too far behind bad hay, but it's not as good as even most of the worst hays that are around. I think for an individual who is trying to winter those sort of store cattle on straw, he'd allow them about 3 bales a week, but he would have to feed more barley. He would have to feed about 4 pounds of barley along with ad-lib straw. And ad-lib straw would amount to about 3 bales a week.
That would just maintain the cattle, I assume.
It would just maintain animals. He wouldn't expect to get any weight gain on ad-lib straw plus about 4 pounds of barley per animal per day.
While it's important that cattle maintain weight this winter, it's probably more important that farmers maintain confidence in the future of the cattle industry. It's easy to understand why a person like Sonny Moore, who got 130 pounds for cattle last year and took 65 pounds for similar cattle this year, is thinking of cutting back numbers. But no industry can thrive and prosper while its supply of raw material is reduced. We have to hope that the extraordinary circumstances which went to make up this disastrous year for young cattle producers will not be repeated. Come what may, better farm incomes won't come from smaller herds,